Hello everyone and welcome back to Bandai Product and Figure Review, your one stop for everything models, tools, and anime alike. And in today's video we're going to be doing another product review, and this is over Gunprimer's glass file RASER set. And this is going to be a fun tool to help out with sanding my parts, and it looks like this is going to do a very good job. And from what I heard from a lot of people that have gotten this, they said it did an impeccable job with just destroying the nub marks to a point where you can't even see them. So we're actually going to be putting that to the test in this video. So let's roll opening and really see, is this going to really take care of those nub marks and white marks? Alright, let's get started by opening this up and taking a look at what the actual product looks like. So when you first open it up, it's going to give you this lovely little pamphlet here, and it's telling me roughly what it is, and this is a new product. And it does give us an instruction manual in English, mind you, on basically what to expect out of this. And so from what I'm understanding, this is going to polish a lot of the plastic. So, and then it gives you different grits to help you out with doing that. So I am always looking for new products and stuff. So I already did one product already, so this is a continuation. So we have the RASER and we have the Blancer, and I believe it tells us which each one does. So we have the RASER here. The RASER, you can just pause that and kind of read that at your own leisure. But so far, this is basically going to be the part that is really going to get that nub mark completely gone. And yeah, and then we have the Blancer, which is going to be more for polishing the pieces. For me, I may end up just wanting to use the RASER aspect, not necessarily the Blancher. And then we have the recovery, which is this little fabric here. So we're actually still going to go through each one of these and see what it actually does and compare to some of the other ones, such as these glass files that I managed to get off of Amazon, as well as some of these, which I do highly recommend, pretty good for different types of sanding. So I do have quite a bit of different types of sanders. So far, my favorite ones have actually been the God Hand sanders, because they just give me such a range of grits, and they are a little spongy, so they can actually get into the little nooks and crannies a little bit better. But when I have a solid piece and I just don't want to see that nub, let's see if this actually will do that for me. So starting off, we're going to actually just need a bit of a runner ourselves. So I have this runner here. So this is from the Gundam Death Scythe. So I have a leftover piece here. So we're going to take one of our handy dandy nippers, and we are actually going to do a couple of what I usually try to not do, and that's cut where it's not super flush, but I will do a combination. So we have one that's here that is a nice little nub. As you can see, it's catching on my finger quite well. So now we can actually see a little bit where we have that nub mark right there. So we're going to try to see if we can get that nicely sanded, and you can see that protrudes quite a bit. And then we have a couple other spots here that we have right here, and then we have another one. So we have at least 2 or 3 spots that we can actually sand. And the thing is, we actually have 2 of these, so we can actually do a real true comparison video between the parts here. So because my favorite ones so far have been my glass little files, and here's this one. I literally like this one so much to the point where I sanded this thing into oblivion and actually broke it. As you can see, this is a standard length one. So as you can see, I really sanded the bejesus out of it to the point where it actually snapped the little handle portion off. So, but this worked really well. So this is one of my favorite ones compared to the general graded God Hand sander sponges. So for glass files, this one actually was one of my favorites. So we are actually going to be looking at the RASER one. And so we're going to just do a comparison with my good old-fashioned favorite one that I have. And yeah, the key thing about with most sanding and all that, you don't want to have these nubs. So you do want to try and get those as down as far as possible in general. So now we have that little mark that we can see right there, the little white flash. And then we can just do our little sand. Alright, so there we go. We actually have it pretty well sanded. Let's just give it a little wipe down a little bit. And yeah, it doesn't look too bad for sanding wise. And that's with the glass file. So, and again, when you sanding, you mostly just want to have this, and usually you can hide a lot of these blemish marks once you actually paint your model kits. So if you want to do straight building, yes, it's nice that we can get it maybe a nice polish, but 90% of some of the models that I usually do, I end up just going and painting a lot of this. So I just need it where it's nicely flush and flat, where we don't have any edges. But now we're going to try to do this one here. So I will actually not cut too much of this nub where we still have a little bit of a catch, and see how well our RASER does. And this is supposed to just obliterate the nub, completely gone, and not leave any kind of trace of it. And I think that actually did a much nicer job, actually. So I'm actually well pleased. So now I did have a struggle with on this one, because we still have a little bit of residual marking on here. So on this, we still have that marking right there. So let's see actually how well this actually does compared to my good old-fashioned spit grip. So that's already looking pretty good, actually, all considering. So we'll just basically, just as a little marker, I'll just put a little something on this one, just so we know what this one is. Easy to do. We'll just do a little clip. One with clip is the one that we did with the glass file, and the one without is with the RASER. So we do still have that little bit of a flash mark, like where the nub was. So that's actually where this Lancer is supposed to come in and help out with that. And trying to get it out of the box. I thought this was actually going to be a solid thing, but it actually turns out that it's actually a soft sponge material, which makes kind of sense since this is more for polish. It's already doing a pretty good job with that, and so there's still some flash marks here. I want to see if I can get those actually removed. Just kind of sand that down a little bit, just see what we can do to get rid of some of those flash marks. And for those who don't know, flash marks are the byproduct of the molding process, so there's really nothing you can really do other than possibly sanding them out, risk thinning out the plastic, or painting. So again, this is going to be the whole process with this, where we're just kind of sanding everything down, making everything look nice and pretty. So I might want to come in and get a little more sanding in that one general section right there. Alrighty, so we have our two pieces fully sanded with both my standard one and our little RASER and Blancher set, and there is a little recovery fiber here that we can actually just come in and just do a gentle wipe down of this. And we can now do kind of a comparison test to see which one actually did better, actually. So let us actually zoom in a lot more, because we're going to need to really see what we're looking at here. So the top one is the one that we actually used for the glass file. And from what I am observing is there is still a lot more damage that my little sander did. So there's actually still a lot more sanding I would need to do to make this look a little more pretty. But overall, I don't see any nub marks other than the general flash that's like right in this general area. Hopefully you can see that. But while we look at the next one here, we actually don't see anything on here, but we also have to look at the opposite side where that nub mark was. And it looks like it doesn't even look like it is there very much. This is basically all of what's left of what that nub mark that we were actually having issues with for that side one, just as we have right here. So comparison wise, it actually looks like it did a really nicer job with actually hiding that nub mark and blending it in a little bit more. And it's just a little dark spots of where the leftover of it is, but that is very smooth and it doesn't look like too much of a blemish, more like just a standard flash. So this would be what I would call ready for primer and paint, because again, that's how you get rid of a lot more of these flash marks, is by actually just painting the model kit, because there's really so much that you can do for sanding and polishing for doing straight build model kits. It's doable, but it's easier to just do that with white, since a lot of those damage marks turned white anyway. So it's easier to just polish the white armor compared to colored armor, where those little white nub marks will still show. But again, this is just an overall light doing with the RASER here. So it actually did a really nice job, actually. And for the tip, we can actually see that there is almost no markings, bad markings at all on the tip, as well on the other side. So that actually did a really nice job. I don't see any flash marks or even the nub marks that were on here, and you guys saw earlier that they were there, that I only trimmed them a little bit, especially for this one. So now let's look at this one to see how well its nub mark came off. So we were looking here, and it looks like the nub mark, I believe it was about right here, and it looks like it's a little still there, about right there. So it's not too bad, or I think it's like about right here. So both of these did actually, I think, fairly well, for at least when you cut them really close, where you could just sand these areas down really nicely. But overall, it's looking like this might actually work a little better than what my good old-fashioned trusty one. But this is getting closer to like how the God Hand sandings are, because going in with the Gundam sanding, we can actually really just tear into these and really get those marks kind of off. And then there's different grits that you can keep going down, and as you can see, it just kind of dulls it out. But these are a little bit more harsher on the plastic, but this actually did a pretty good job. And as we can see, I've used this quite a bit, and just for with little use of this, you can barely see any like scuff marks or anything like that. So it actually did a really nice job actually with this. So it's comparable to what my little glass razor is, or sander. Alright everyone, that's going to conclude this tool review over Gunprimer's RASER and Blancher set. And I would actually say it did fairly good. It's definitely worth the price. It's really nice, it's not too big, and it does the job that it's supposed to do, and that's to really get rid of those nub marks. And it blends it in really nicely, where you could easily kind of get away with it just being like a lighter shadow of red or whatever color. I just happen to do red, which is more notorious for showing the white, but it also blends really well. So the nub mark, yes, it did go away. There was still a bit of the damage that you would normally see with cutting out with the tearing of the plastic, making it white. So it was still a little bit there, but not too noticeable. So it's going to keep your pieces nice and smooth without damaging the model too badly. So I probably give this product about an 8 out of 10 because it didn't get rid of everything. Again, I did a light thing on here, so there might be some people that are spending hours just sanding and sanding. Again, this is a hobby where putty and sanding are hand in hand. But for what it did a really good job, and I feel very comfortable working on my model kits with this, especially if I'm getting some that I wanted to do a little bit more straight builds and didn't want to have too much of those sprue marks still left over, or even some flash marks. So this did a really good job with polishing a lot of those flash marks. So that's where I'm definitely giving it that 8, is being able to help out and polish out those flash marks that you always get with the manufacturing of plastic models, where I don't have to go as heavy on sanding and then fully having to paint and possibly risk thinning out the plastic in the process of all of that sanding. So I really like how this has a double combo set with a nice good sander and a nice polishing blancher on here. So I really like this set, so I highly recommend picking this up. I managed to get this one, I think, from Gundam USA. You might be able to take a look at your local hobby shops and see if this is in stock. So I definitely highly recommend getting this particular product, especially if you're wanting to do a lot more advanced stuff. It's good to have very good tools on hand. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this type of content. Please like and subscribe. So with that, I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Until then, stay building.